Hello everyone. So friends, in our last lecture we discussed about the dummy test double. So in this lecture we will see that what is stub test double. So friend, what do we mean by stub? So the stub test double provides the predefined answers to method executions made during the test. So here what happens is we usually create the stub test double for the external dependency, and whenever class under test calls the method on the external dependency, we usually provide some predefined answers to our class under test. So these predefined answers are nothing but the hard-coded behavior. So here let's say for example our class under test is dependent on external service. So whenever our class under test will call the method on the external dependency, so what we do is we create stub of those external dependency. We hardcode the behavior for the method that is called, and instead of calling the external dependency, we call the stub, and whatever the response we want, we simply return it from the executed method. So here instead of calling the external service, the stub is called and it returns back an expected response. That expected response is nothing but our hardcoded behavior. So in a larger picture, a stub test double acts as a replacement for our external dependency, and whatever method is executed on the external dependency, instead of calling the external dependency, the stub is called and some of the code is hard-coded into that particular method, which does something and finally returns us back the expected response. So here if we see the example, let's say our test calls the book service class and we want to test one of the methods of the book service class. Here the book service class is dependent on book repository, which communicates to the database. So when we want to test the book service class, we usually don't go to the actual book repository. What we do is we create the book repository stub, and instead of calling the method on book repository, we call the method on book repository stub, and whatever method we have called here, we simply hardcode the behavior here and finally return back an stubbed response, which is later being used by book service for its own use case. So by providing the stubbed response, whatever thing we are sending back to the book service, it will use that stuff and execute its own use case, and finally we can test our book service class without having a need for the actual book repository which communicates to the database. So friends, now let's go to IntelliJ and see the demonstration of stub test double without Mockito. Hello everyone. So in our main Java folder, I will be creating one package as testdouble.stub, and here I will be simply using this book repository and book service class, which we already discussed in our previous lecture. So I'll simply copy and paste it into stub folder. So friends, here you can see that book service class has this few methods. So what we are doing with this method is we are simply, let's say in add book, we are simply calling the save method of the book repository class, and in find number of books we are simply calling the find all method of the book repository class. And till now we saw that how we can use the dummy test double and fake test double, and here you can see that there is not much logic related to book service class. It is simply calling the book repository class and doing the stuff. Now where the stub test double comes into picture is, let's say when book service is dependent on the book repository class, it does something with the book repository class and then it performs its own calculations or logic on the top of it, and finally it returns something back to the caller. So here in order to demonstrate the stub test double, I will be removing these two methods. So here let's say we have one requirement that whatever books are published in past 7 days, we need to get those books, and whatever the price it has, we need to apply, let's say, a percentage of discount. It can be 10%, 20%, anything. So here, in order to implement the functionality, what we do is, let's say we create one method as public which returns us back the list of books after applying the discount, and let's say we give the name of the method as get new books with applied discount. And let's say this method takes in the actual discount rate which we want to give. So we pass discount rate. So as we are applying this discount on the new books, the books can be published, let's say 7 days back, 30 days back, 45 days back. So we provide the days, which is nothing but the range starting from today and the number of days back. So let's say if you want to apply the discount on the books which are published in past 7 days, what we can do is we can simply pass the value 7. So it is nothing but the range from the current date. So inside this method, what we can do is we can go to book repository. We can call find new books. And we can pass the days. So here what we are doing is we are going to the database, taking in days, and we are simply bringing the new books which are published within these 7 days. So when we call book repository.find new books, it returns us back new books. So let us create this method. So friends, after getting these new books, now let's say book service performs some logic on the top of it. So what it does is, so here let's say the price of book is 500 and we want to apply, let's say 10% discount. So here 10% of 500 would be 50. So when we apply this rupees 50 discount on 500, it becomes 500 minus 50, which gives 450. So friends, we are provided with a discount rate and we are given a list of new books. So here now book service will perform some calculation on the list of books and finally will return the new books with the applied discount. So here what we can do is we can simply iterate the list of books. So inside this for loop we are iterating each book and will apply the discount rate for each book and finally will return the book. So here we'll simply return the new books. Now here what we do is we get the price of the book. Now after getting the price, we'll calculate its new price by using this stuff. So if you want to calculate the discount rate of the price, what we can do is we can do discount rate into price divided by 100. So this stuff will give us, let's say example 10% of 500, which is the actual applied discount. And then we'll subtract this discounted price from the actual price. So this will give us back the new price. So finally what we'll do book.set price and we'll simply set the new price. And finally we are returning the new books. So friends, here you can see that book service is dependent on book repository to get the new books published within these days. Once we get the new books, the book service applies some logic on it to calculate the discounted price and it simply applies the discount on each and every book and finally return us back the list of new books. So friends, here in order to test the get new books with applied discount method, what we can do is, first of all we need to stop going to the external dependency, that is to the actual database. And secondly, let's say when we do find new books and we pass the number of days, irrespective of it returns, let's say 5 books, 7 books, 10 books. The actual logic to calculate this applied discount is here. So let's say if we go to database, we do find new books and we get 2 books. So the logic will be applied on these 2 books to calculate the new discounted price. So it doesn't matter if we are getting this new books from the actual database or from our test double. So when we encounter such scenarios, what we can do is we can introduce test double, which is of type stub. So in that what we do is we create the stub of this book repository class, and whenever find new books is called, we simply return a hard-coded list of books. And based on the hard-coded list of books, this logic is performed on top of it, and we can simply test our get new books with applied discount method. So here let's create the stub test double and see how we can test this get new books with applied discount method. So in our test folder, I'll be creating a package as stub. Here we create a test class. Let's say we give a name as stub test. Here we create a test method. And let's say we give the name to it as demo stub. Now friends, here we want to test this method, get new books with applied discount. So we need a book service instance. And here we can see that book service needs a book repository. So we'll create the stub of this book repository. We give it a name as book repository stub, and we simply pass it to the new book service constructor. So we'll implement book repository stub in the test folder. We'll implement find new books method. So friends, here you can see what the main purpose of stub is. Instead of going to the actual database, what we do here is for testing get new books with applied discount, which requires the list of new books. We simply hard code the list of new books here and will return the list of books so that the book service can simply reuse those list of books and calculate the discounted price on the top of it. So here we'll simply create the hard-coded new books. Let's say we create 2 books, and if we go to the fake test class which we created earlier, here we have created these 2 books. So I'll simply copy this. So the book 1 has book ID 1234, the title is Mosquito in Action, and let's say we give price as 500. So the original price for this book is 500. Let's say we create book 2. Simply copy this and I give the ID as 1235 and title is JUnit 5 in Action, and let's say we give the price as 400. Also friends, then we'll add these 2 books into our new books. And we'll simply return the new books. So friends, here you can see that we are simply hard coding the stuff just to test our book service get new books with applied discount method. because it requires to call this find new books method to get the list of new books. So after stubbing the book repository, what we can do is we can simply call get new books with applied discount, and let's say we want 10% discount to the books which are published in past 1 week. So we provide the value of days as 7. So when we call this method, it returns us back the new books with applied discount. And finally we can provide the asserts on the top of it. So the first assertion we provide is on the size of books. So here, as we know that in our book repository stub, we have added these 2 books. So we expect that the size of books would be 2. So friends, here you can see that in book service, after getting the new books, we are applying this logic to calculate the applied discount. So this discount is applied on each and every book. So here what we can do is we can simply test that whatever the discount we applied is actually working or not. So here when we call this get new books with applied discount, it internally calls the book repository stub because we are passing the book repository here, and it returns us back these 2 books whose price is 500 and 400. And as we are applying 10% discount, so for the first book the price is 500. So when we apply 10% discount on 500, we get 450. Expected price is 450. So we get the first book and we do the get price. And similarly the second book cost 400. So if we do the 10% of 400, we get 40. And when we do 400 minus 40, we get 360. So 360 would be the new price after applying the 10% discount. So we'll do get one dot get price. So here as we are getting these 2 books, on the first book the price is 500 and after applying the discount it becomes 450. And for the second book the price is 400 and after applying the 10% discount, which is here, we get 360. So if I run the test case now, so here you can see the test case got executed successfully, and here you saw the significance of doing this stub. Instead of going to the actual database, we simply created our own hard-coded data and we simply returned it to the book service here. So irrespective of the number of books written from the stub, our actual logic is here, which we tested and found that it worked correctly. So friends, in this lecture we saw the demonstration of stub test double. I hope you liked this video. Thanks, have a nice day.